Alien Queen underestimated a human warrior until he revealed his true identity. In the dim glow of a dying star, nestled within the labyrinthine corridors of an ancient alien fortress, the Queen of the Zytherians reclined upon her obsidian throne. Her iridescent exoskeleton shimmered with hues that danced between violet and emerald, while countless tendrils of bioluminescent energy pulsed rhythmically from her massive form. The chamber hummed with the collective consciousness of her hive mind, each thought and emotion rippling through the crystalline walls like waves on an ethereal sea. The Zytherian Empire had dominated this sector of the galaxy for millennia, their advanced technology and telepathic abilities making them formidable conquerors. Their queen, known simply as Sovereign, possessed intelligence that transcended mere calculation. She could perceive patterns in chaos, predict outcomes before they manifested, and manipulate entire civilizations with a single thought. Her species' mastery over biological engineering had created armies of perfect warriors and established colonies across hundreds of worlds. Yet today, Sovereign's 6 primary eyes narrowed with barely concealed irritation as she observed the latest prisoner brought before her. Through the transparent barrier of his containment field, she studied the human male who had somehow managed to infiltrate her inner sanctum. He appeared remarkably ordinary, average height, unremarkable features, and dressed in standard-issue military fatigues that were now torn and scorched from battle. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths, though his hands remained bound by energy restraints that should have rendered him completely helpless. The Queen's mandibles twitched in amusement as she extended her consciousness toward the human's mind, only to encounter an unusual resistance. Most species quaked under her mental presence, their thoughts unraveling like threads in her grasp. This one, however, maintained an infuriating calm, his surface thoughts carefully guarded behind layers of discipline and training. She probed deeper, searching for weaknesses, but found only a peculiar void where fear should have dwelled. "Bring him forward," Sovereign commanded, her voice resonating through the chamber in overlapping harmonics that would have driven lesser beings to their knees. 2 of her elite guards approached the containment field, their chitinous armor gleaming with predatory menace. As they deactivated the barrier and seized the human by his arms, she noted how his muscles tensed but didn't struggle, a calculated restraint that intrigued her more than she cared to admit. The prisoner was marched to the base of her dais, where he stood with his head held high despite the circumstances. Sovereign leaned forward slightly, her massive frame casting ominous shadows across the chamber. "You are aware," she began, her words dripping with condescension, "that your capture marks the end of your pathetic rebellion? Your species has proven disappointingly fragile in our encounters." The human's response came without hesitation, his voice carrying a surprising strength that echoed off the crystalline walls. "Your assessment of humanity is based on limited data, Your Majesty. We've survived extinction events that would have annihilated your kind." His eyes met hers with unwavering determination, and for the first time in centuries, Sovereign felt a flicker of something akin to uncertainty ripple through her consciousness. She dismissed it quickly, attributing the sensation to mere curiosity about this particular specimen. After all, what could one human possibly achieve against the might of her empire? And yet, as she continued to study him, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this warrior than met her enhanced perception. Perhaps keeping him alive for further examination would prove educational. The Queen's decision to delay the human's execution proved both frustrating and fascinating. Each day, she summoned him to her private chambers, testing his resolve through increasingly complex psychological trials. She flooded his mind with illusions of his homeworld burning, watched as he endured simulated torture sessions designed to break even her own warriors, and subjected him to telepathic assaults that would have driven most beings mad. Yet through it all, the human maintained an unsettling composure, his responses measured and his spirit unbroken. During these sessions, Sovereign discovered aspects of human psychology that challenged her preconceptions. When she attempted to overwhelm him with visions of despair, he countered by focusing on memories of laughter and camaraderie. When she tried to isolate him mentally, he drew strength from imagined connections with his fellow soldiers. Most perplexing of all was his ability to maintain hope in situations where logic dictated surrender. These qualities, so foreign to Zytherian nature, began to intrigue her on a fundamental level. Their verbal exchanges grew more frequent and intense. The human demonstrated an uncanny ability to read her subtle emotional cues, responding with insights that suggested a deep understanding of strategy and diplomacy. He spoke of Earth's history, sharing tales of seemingly impossible victories achieved through unity and sacrifice. His descriptions of human art, music, and philosophy revealed a species capable of profound creativity and compassion, traits the Zytherians had long considered weaknesses. Sovereign found herself drawn to these conversations, extending their duration far beyond what was necessary for interrogation. She began to modify the parameters of his confinement, granting him access to certain areas of the fortress and allowing him to interact with her scientists and engineers. To her surprise, he engaged them with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions about Zytherian technology and culture. The human's capacity for learning and adaptation proved remarkable, as he quickly grasped concepts that typically required years of study. As weeks turned into months, a transformation occurred within the Queen's vast consciousness. The human's resilience forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about her own empire. His stories of peaceful coexistence among diverse cultures highlighted the rigid hierarchy and lack of individuality within Zytherian society. His demonstrations of creative problem-solving exposed the limitations of their purely logical approach to challenges. Most disturbingly, his unwavering belief in the potential for change made her question the inevitability of their conquest-driven existence. The turning point came during an unexpected power surge that temporarily disrupted the fortress's security systems. Alarms blared through the corridors as backup generators struggled to restore order. In the chaos, several lower-level drones panicked, their usual precision replaced by erratic behavior. Sovereign watched with growing concern as her normally efficient hive mind fragmented under stress. Then she noticed something extraordinary. The human prisoner, rather than attempting escape, moved methodically through the confusion, using his knowledge of Zytherian infrastructure to help stabilize critical systems. Through their mental link, she sensed his genuine desire to prevent harm, not just to himself but to all beings affected by the crisis. His actions weren't motivated by self-preservation or manipulation, but by an authentic sense of responsibility. This display of leadership and compassion during adversity struck a chord deep within her consciousness, challenging her fundamental beliefs about the nature of strength and power. As order was restored, Sovereign found herself unable to dismiss the incident as mere coincidence or calculated behavior. The human's response had been too instinctive, too pure in its intention. For the first time in her long existence, she began to entertain the possibility that true strength might lie not in domination, but in the ability to inspire and protect others. This realization unsettled her, creating a conflict between her ingrained imperial instincts and the new perspectives forcing their way into her consciousness. The fortress's grand audience chamber buzzed with heightened activity as Sovereign prepared for what would be the most significant confrontation of her reign. She had ordered her highest-ranking commanders and scientific advisors to assemble, their collective minds forming a reservoir of Zytherian knowledge and authority. The human stood at the center of this gathering, his posture relaxed yet alert, as if he understood the gravity of the moment without being intimidated by it. Sovereign descended from her elevated throne, her massive form casting intricate shadows across the crystalline floor. "Human," she began, her voice resonating with both command and something akin to respect, "you have demonstrated capabilities that challenge our understanding of your species. Yet you remain an enigma. What is it that drives your resilience? What force compels you to persist against overwhelming odds?" The human's response carried an unexpected weight. "Your Majesty, you've witnessed fragments of what makes humanity unique, but you've only scratched the surface. Our strength doesn't come from physical prowess or technological superiority. It emerges from our capacity to adapt, to learn, and to grow stronger through adversity. But more importantly, it stems from our ability to care, for each other, for our world, and even for those who would see us destroyed." A ripple of unease passed through the assembled Zytherians as their queen paused, processing this revelation. "Care?" she repeated, the concept foreign yet strangely compelling. "You speak of emotions as if they are weapons." "They can be," the human acknowledged, "but they're also bridges. They connect us, allow us to understand one another, and create bonds stronger than any alloy or energy field. Your people excel at control and efficiency, but you've sacrificed something vital in the process: the spark of individuality, the unpredictable nature of true growth." Sovereign's mandibles twitched as she absorbed this perspective. "And what of your military prowess? Your strategic mind suggests experience beyond your apparent years." The human's eyes darkened with memories. "I've fought in conflicts you wouldn't believe possible. I've seen worlds burn and civilizations fall. But I've also witnessed miracles, moments when ordinary people became extraordinary through sheer will and determination. That's what you're sensing in me, Your Majesty. Not just one warrior, but the collective strength of billions who refuse to accept defeat as inevitable. The chamber's atmosphere shifted as Sovereign extended her consciousness toward the human once more, this time with different intent. Instead of probing for weakness, she sought to understand the depths of his conviction. What she encountered astonished her. Layers upon layers of experiences, each contributing to a tapestry of resilience and wisdom far beyond his apparent age. The human wasn't merely a soldier. He was a repository of knowledge, tactics, and cultural understanding that spanned generations. You possess knowledge that shouldn't exist in a single lifetime, she observed, her voice tinged with both awe and suspicion. How is this possible? The human's lips curved into a knowing smile. That, Your Majesty, is part of what makes my identity so crucial. You've underestimated not just me, but everything my presence represents. Humanity's greatest strength lies in our ability to preserve and build upon our past, to carry forward lessons learned through triumph and tragedy alike. Sovereign's primary eyes widened as realization dawned. The human's presence here wasn't coincidence. His capture wasn't merely a tactical victory. Every interaction, every demonstration of strength and compassion, had been building toward this moment. A confrontation that would force her to reconsider everything she believed about power, progress, and the nature of true strength. The chamber fell silent as Sovereign processed this revelation, her massive form trembling with the weight of conflicting possibilities. For the first time in her reign, she faced a choice that could alter the course of her empire forever. Whether to continue down the path of conquest and control, or to embrace the uncertain future that the human's existence represented. As Sovereign grappled with these revelations, the fortress's sensors detected an approaching fleet, human vessels, their signatures unmistakable. The timing couldn't be coincidence. The prisoner's comrades had arrived, their arrival synchronized with his psychological campaign against her empire's foundations. Yet instead of panic or triumph, the human displayed a complex mixture of emotions that confused Sovereign's usually precise empathic senses. Through their mental connection, she perceived layers of concern beneath his surface calm. Concern for his people's safety, yes, but also for hers, for the millions of Zytherians whose lives would be irrevocably changed by the coming confrontation. This paradoxical compassion shook her to her core, challenging her fundamental understanding of warfare and survival. Her species had always viewed conflict through the lens of absolute victory or annihilation, but this human seemed to operate on an entirely different paradigm. The human's next words confirmed her suspicions. Your Majesty, I must reveal something that will fundamentally alter our dynamic. My presence here wasn't just about infiltration or sabotage. I represent a branch of human evolution that you couldn't possibly have anticipated. He paused, allowing the weight of his statement to settle before continuing. We've developed abilities that transcend conventional understanding of biology and consciousness. Abilities that allow us to bridge gaps between species, to understand and influence on levels you've never experienced. Sovereign's hive mind recoiled at the implications, yet her scientific curiosity burned brighter than her defensive instincts. The human's physiology began to shift subtly, his cellular structure rearranging in patterns that defied Zytherian biological principles. Energy fields fluctuated around him, not as weapons but as extensions of his very being. The fortress's monitoring system struggled to categorize the changes, their readings oscillating between impossible and miraculous. You've evolved beyond your physical form, she whispered, her multiple voices blending in wonder. This is why you've remained such an enigma. You're not just human. You're something more. The prisoner nodded, his expression a mixture of pride and sorrow. Our species has reached a crossroads. Some have chosen to embrace these changes, to become living bridges between worlds and dimensions. Others have rejected them, fearing what we might lose in the transformation. I represent a middle path, maintaining our humanity while accessing these new potentials. Sovereign's massive frame swayed as she processed this revelation. The implications were staggering. If humans had developed such capabilities, their potential threat level increased exponentially. Yet simultaneously, their capacity for understanding and cooperation expanded beyond anything her empire had encountered. The very foundations of Zytherian supremacy trembled beneath this new reality. Through their deepening mental connection, Sovereign experienced flashes of the human's true nature, glimpses of cosmic awareness, of timelines converging and diverging, of possibilities that stretched beyond linear comprehension. Each revelation forced her to expand her consciousness, to reach beyond the comfortable boundaries of Zytherian superiority. The experience was both exhilarating and terrifying, like standing on the edge of an infinite abyss. "What do you want from us?" she asked finally, her voice carrying notes of both defiance and vulnerability. "If your kind possesses such power, why not simply overwhelm us?" The human's response carried the weight of galaxies. Because true strength isn't measured by what you can destroy, but by what you can create and preserve. We seek allies, not subjects. Partners, not conquests. Your species has much to offer, but your current path leads only to stagnation and eventual collapse. We offer you a chance to evolve, to join us in exploring possibilities beyond your current understanding. As Sovereign absorbed these words, her consciousness expanded to encompass the full scope of her empire's potential. The human's presence had planted seeds of doubt about their methods, their purpose, their very identity. Yet alongside this uncertainty bloomed a vision of unprecedented opportunity. The chance to redefine what it meant to be strong, to be powerful, to be truly alive in the vast tapestry of existence. The fortress itself seemed to hold its breath as queen and warrior regarded each other across the chasm of species and understanding. The outcome of their confrontation would determine not just the fate of two civilizations, but the direction of galactic evolution itself. The silence between them stretched, charged with the weight of galaxies and the potential for transformation. Sovereign's massive form shifted subtly, her iridescent exoskeleton catching the dim light of the chamber in ways that made her seem almost otherworldly. For the first time in her long existence, she felt the stirrings of something akin to humility, a sensation so foreign it bordered on painful. The human before her was no mere warrior, no simple representative of his species. He was a living embodiment of evolution's next step, a being who carried within him the hopes and dreams of an entire civilization poised on the brink of transcendence. "You ask us to change," Sovereign said finally, her voice layered with harmonics that betrayed both awe and resistance. "But change is not merely a choice, it is a risk. My people have built our empire on order, on control. To abandon that, to embrace uncertainty." Her tendrils of bioluminescent energy flickered erratically, mirroring the turmoil within her vast consciousness. "It would mean dismantling everything we are." The human nodded slowly, his expression softening as though he understood the gravity of what she faced. "Yes," he replied, his tone measured but firm. "And yet, isn't that what true growth requires? Not destruction, but transformation. You see your hive mind as strength, and in many ways, it is. But it has also become a cage, a prison of sameness, where individuality is sacrificed for efficiency. Your people deserve more than that. They deserve the chance to dream, to create, to fail and rise again." Sovereign's mandibles twitched, a gesture of agitation. She turned away from him, pacing the length of the chamber with deliberate slowness. Her thoughts raced, branching into countless possibilities. Could her empire survive such a radical shift? Would her people even want it? The Zytherians had always prided themselves on their perfection, their ability to calculate every outcome, to eliminate chaos through sheer force of will. And yet, this human stood before her, proof that chaos itself could be a source of strength, that unpredictability could lead to beauty. "You speak of freedom," she said at last, turning back to face him. "But freedom comes with vulnerability. If we were to follow your path, we would expose ourselves, to failure, to loss, to pain. Are you certain your own kind is ready for such responsibility?" The human's gaze never wavered. "No one is ever truly ready," he admitted. "But readiness isn't the point. It's about choosing to take the step anyway, knowing that the alternative is stagnation. Humanity has stumbled countless times along this journey. We've made mistakes, terrible ones, but each misstep taught us something new. Each wound left a scar, yes, but also a lesson. That's what makes us strong. Not invulnerability, but resilience." As he spoke, Sovereign felt a strange warmth spreading through her consciousness, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a storm. There was truth in his words, undeniable and profound. She thought of her drones, her warriors, her scientists, all brilliant, all efficient, yet ultimately confined by the rigid structure of the hive mind. How many of them yearned for something more, even if they couldn't articulate it? How many might flourish if given the chance to explore their own identities, their own potential? But there was another layer to this revelation, one that cut deeper still. As Sovereign looked into the human's eyes, she saw not just an advocate for change, but a reflection of her own doubts and fears. This man, this transcendent being, was offering her a gift, the opportunity to redefine what it meant to be sovereign. Not as a ruler who dominates through fear and control, but as a leader who empowers through trust and vision. The idea terrified her, but it also filled her with a longing she hadn't known she possessed. "Tell me," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the hum of the fortress. "If I were to accept your offer, if I were to open my people to this transformation, what guarantee do I have that it wouldn't destroy us? That we wouldn't lose ourselves entirely?" The human stepped closer, his movements deliberate and unhurried. When he spoke, his voice carried a quiet authority that resonated through the chamber. "There are no guarantees," he said. "Only choices. But consider this, your empire already stands on the edge of collapse. Your methods have brought you power, yes, but at what cost? Your conquests have sown resentment across the stars. Your people grow restless, their collective consciousness straining against the limits you've imposed. Even now, cracks are forming in the foundation of your rule. If you continue down this path, those cracks will widen until everything collapses." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Or you can choose a different path. One where strength is measured not by how much you dominate, but by how much you inspire. Where unity doesn't mean conformity, but collaboration. Where progress isn't dictated by fear, but driven by hope. It won't be easy. There will be resistance, setbacks, perhaps even rebellion. But if you succeed, you'll create something far greater than an empire. You'll forge a legacy that endures, not because it's perfect, but because it's alive." For a moment, Sovereignty was silent, her 6 eyes fixed on the human as though trying to pierce the very essence of his being. Then, without warning, she extended her consciousness fully toward him, not as an interrogator or conqueror, but as a seeker. What she found astonished her. Beneath the layers of wisdom and power lay a deep well of compassion, not pity, but genuine understanding. This man didn't just want to save his own species, he wanted to uplift hers as well. He saw potential in the Zytherians that they themselves had forgotten, buried beneath centuries of conquest and control. And then, amidst the swirling currents of his consciousness, she glimpsed something else. Fragments of memories, visions of battles fought and lives lost. Of worlds saved and civilizations reborn. Of sacrifices made not out of duty, but out of love. These weren't just his experiences. They were echoes of humanity's collective journey, distilled into a single, shining beacon of possibility. Sovereign withdrew her presence, her mind reeling from the encounter. She felt smaller somehow, yet paradoxically larger. As though she'd been standing in a darkened room her entire life, only to have someone open a door and reveal a universe beyond. The human watched her patiently, giving her the space to process, to decide. Finally, she straightened, her massive frame radiating a newfound resolve. "Very well," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging within her. "I will consider your proposal. But know this, if I choose to proceed, it will not be out of weakness or desperation. It will be because I believe it offers my people a future worth striving for." The human inclined his head, a gesture of respect. "That's all anyone can ask," he said softly. "The rest is up to you." At that moment, the fortress trembled slightly, a low-frequency vibration rippling through its crystalline walls. Sovereign sensory arrays detected increased activity from the approaching human fleet, their ships positioning themselves in strategic formations around the planet. Time was running out. Whatever decision she made, it would need to happen soon. She regarded the human once more, her thoughts a tempest of possibilities. "You've given me much to think about," she said. "But tell me this, why should I trust you? Why should I believe that your intentions are pure, that this isn't some elaborate scheme to undermine my empire?" The human smiled faintly, a bittersweet expression that spoke volumes. Because I'm asking you to take the same leap of faith that my people took when they embraced their own evolution. Because I'm willing to stand here, unarmed and vulnerable, and offer you not just my knowledge, but my trust. Because, Your Majesty, sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't fighting, it's believing. Sovereign stared at him, her mind racing with the enormity of the decision before her. Outside, the stars burned bright against the void, indifferent witnesses to the drama unfolding within the fortress. Inside, two beings, one alien, one human, stood at the precipice of change, their fates intertwined in ways neither could have foreseen. And somewhere, deep within the Queen's consciousness, a seed of hope began to take root. The fortress seemed to hold its breath as Sovereign turned her gaze toward the crystalline viewport, where the stars burned with cold brilliance against the infinite darkness. Her decision would ripple across galaxies, altering the course of countless lives, Zytherian and human alike. The weight of that responsibility pressed heavily upon her, yet within it lay a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in centuries, she felt truly alive, as though the rigid constraints of her empire had loosened just enough to let possibility seep through. She turned back to the human, her massive form exuding an aura of quiet resolve. "You ask me to trust you," she said, her layered voice resonating like distant thunder. "But trust is not given lightly among my kind. It must be earned." She paused, her 6 eyes narrowing slightly. "And so, I propose a test, a final demonstration of your sincerity." The human tilted his head, curiosity flickering in his expression. "What do you have in mind?" Sovereign extended one of her shimmering tendrils, which pulsed with bioluminescent energy. "Link your consciousness fully with mine, not partially, as we've done before, but completely. Let me see everything. Your memories, your emotions, your very essence. If you are who you claim to be, then this will prove it beyond doubt." For a moment, the human hesitated, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Then he nodded, stepping forward until he stood directly beneath her towering frame. "Very well," he said softly. "But know this, what you'll see may challenge everything you believe about power, about survival, about what it means to be strong." Without another word, Sovereign reached out with her mental presence, enveloping the human in a web of psychic energy. This time, there was no resistance, no barrier between them. Their minds merged seamlessly, becoming one unified consciousness that spanned dimensions and realities. What Sovereign experienced in those moments defied description. She saw flashes of Earth's history, the rise and fall of civilizations, the triumphs and tragedies that had shaped humanity into what it was today. She witnessed acts of unimaginable courage, soldiers sacrificing themselves for their comrades, parents shielding their children from harm, ordinary people rising up against tyranny despite overwhelming odds. She felt the raw emotion behind these moments, the grief, the joy, the unyielding hope that bound them all together. But more than that, she saw the human's true identity. He wasn't merely a warrior or a diplomat, he was something far greater. A living bridge between worlds, a being who carried within him the collective wisdom of his species' past and the boundless potential of its future. His evolution hadn't stripped him of his humanity, it had amplified it, allowing him to connect with others on levels that transcended language and culture. As the connection deepened, Sovereign found herself drawn into visions of what could be. She saw Zytherians embracing individuality, their hive mind evolving into a symphony of unique voices working in harmony. She saw humans and Zytherians standing side by side, exploring the stars not as conquerors, but as partners. And she saw herself, not as a ruler clinging to power, but as a leader guiding her people toward a brighter destiny. When the link finally broke, Sovereign staggered back, her massive form trembling with the force of what she'd witnessed. Tears, something she hadn't shed in millennia, traced glowing paths down her exoskeleton. The human stood before her, his face pale but resolute, as though bearing the burden of sharing such profound truths. "You were right," she whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of emotion. This changes everything." The human nodded, his own eyes glistening. "It doesn't have to end here," he said gently. "Your people can still thrive, but not through domination. Through creation. Through connection. Together, we can build something greater than either of our species could achieve alone." Sovereign straightened, her resolve hardening like molten metal cooling into steel. "Then so it shall be," she declared, her voice ringing out with authority. Turning to her assembled commanders and advisers, she addressed them with a clarity and conviction that left no room for doubt. "Hear me now. The age of conquest is over. From this day forward, we will seek not to dominate, but to understand. Not to destroy, but to create. We will forge alliances, not empires. And we will begin with humanity." A ripple of shock passed through the chamber, followed by murmurs of uncertainty. Some of her subordinates exchanged uneasy glances, while others seemed intrigued by the prospect of change. But none dared to challenge her decision, not when they sensed the depth of her conviction. Outside, the human fleet remained poised, their weapons trained on the fortress but held in check by some unseen signal. As Sovereign transmitted her intentions to their leaders, the tension in the air began to ease. One by one, the ships powered down their offensive systems, their crews watching with cautious optimism as the standoff dissolved into something resembling peace. In the days that followed, the fortress became a hub of unprecedented activity. Humans and Zytherians worked side by side, sharing knowledge and technology, learning from each other in ways neither species had thought possible. Sovereign herself took an active role in these exchanges, her once imposing presence now softened by genuine curiosity and humility. The human, who revealed his name only as Elias, became both mentor and mediator, helping to bridge the gaps between two vastly different cultures. Yet even as progress unfolded, challenges remained. Not all Zytherians embraced the new direction, and pockets of resistance emerged, threatening to undermine the fragile alliance. Elias and Sovereign faced these obstacles together, their bond growing stronger with each trial they overcame. Through it all, they remained steadfast in their belief that the path to unity was worth every sacrifice. One evening, as the twin suns of the system dipped below the horizon, casting the fortress in hues of gold and crimson, Elias and Sovereign stood together on a high balcony overlooking the planet below. The air was filled with the hum of activity, a testament to the collaborative efforts taking place across the surface. "Do you ever wonder," Elias asked quietly, "what might have happened if we'd met under different circumstances? If our first encounter had been one of war instead of understanding?" Sovereign regarded him thoughtfully, her iridescent form catching the fading light. "I do," she admitted. "And perhaps, in another timeline, we would have been enemies. But here, now, I cannot imagine it any other way. You have shown me that strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to change, to grow, to become more than we were." Elias smiled, a bittersweet expression that spoke of both loss and hope. "That's the beauty of it," he said. "We're always becoming. Never finished, never perfect, but always moving forward." They stood in silence for a long while, watching as the first stars appeared in the twilight sky. In that moment, they weren't just representatives of their respective species. They were symbols of something greater, the possibility of connection, of transformation, of peace forged not through surrender, but through mutual respect and shared vision. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the cosmos, the universe seemed to take notice.